Welcome to Stateline New South Wales. I'm Quentin Dempster. Tonight, game changer. All of a sudden, the Julia Gillard-Bob Brown carbon tax announced last week has changed the game federally, and it now appears in state politics as well. The New South Wales election in 3 weeks' time may turn into a mini-referendum on the carbon tax, with a clear point of difference now exposed between Christina Keneally's Labor government and the Barry O'Farrell coalition. Ms Keneally supports the carbon tax, Mr O'Farrell does not. The local issue, cost of living impacts. We'll be discussing the carbon tax and the cost of living with the Greens Party Upper House lead candidate David Shoebridge later in the program. But first, another potential game changer has emerged. The very real prospect that any incoming O'Farrell government formed in the bear pit may win effective control of the Upper House as well. What would happen with such an outcome?
Every opinion poll indicates that the coalition is going to have a massive landslide in the lower house. If that vote delivers them that in the lower house, they will get a fair number of seats in the upper house and enough to be able to govern with the support of the Christian Democrats and the Shooters Party. It's a governable upper house for them. It's far better for the coalition than having to try and negotiate with the Greens.
The upper house vote on March the 26th could change the game in New South Wales politics. Let's do the upper house numbers. There are 42 members of the Legislative Council. At this election, half the seats, that's 21, are up for grabs. In the new chamber, the incoming state government, which will be formed in the bear pit, must deliver, after the election of the president, 21 votes in the upper house to get any legislation through. New South Wales has been governed with a perennially hung upper house since 1988. Liberal and Labor governments have had to wrangle their legislation through backroom deals with minor parties, the Greens, the Christian Democrats and the Shooters. The composition of the upper house depends on the proportional representation quota system. ABC psephologist Antony Green used his online upper house vote calculator to crunch the numbers, using the current primary votes according to opinion polling. 23 for the Australian Labor Party, 46 for the Coalition, 14 for the Greens. Calculate.
The Coalition, on 46% of the vote, which is one of the lower polls are getting at the moment, would end up with 18 seats, plus 2 Christian Democrats, plus 2 Shooters Party representatives, minus the President. They have 21 votes, control the chamber. They don't have to negotiate with the Greens.
This is what the upper house would look like if the polls are replicated on election day. Labor would lose 5 upper house seats, taking their total to just 14. The Coalition would pick up 3 to bring their numbers to 18. The Greens would pick up 2 to take their numbers to 6. The Christian Democrats would pick up 1 to take their numbers to 2. And the Shooters and Fishers Party would pick up 1 to take their tally to 2. The Coalition's 18, plus the Christian Democrats and the Shooters and Fishers, 2 each, add up to 22. After the election of the President, that's 21, a clear majority in the 42-member chamber. Thus, a new anti-Labor, anti-Green alliance could emerge. While Antony Green is not predicting the Coalition will win the upper house outright, the extra numbers it does win could give an incoming O'Farrell government a chance to control both houses of Parliament through a Memorandum of Understanding or Charter of Reform negotiated with the Christian Democrats and the Shooters and Fishers, or maybe, if it gets a quota, Family First or any other successful candidate. We asked some of the minor party ticket leaders where they stood in such an eventuality. Paul Green leads the Christian Democrats upper house ticket. He's the mayor of Shoalhaven.
If elected on March 26, I would be elected to represent the Christian community and their values. And there's no doubt that the non-negotiables will be working within that framework. In terms of negotiable, everything else is negotiable. My own personal priorities, though, I'd like to see the Section 88 waste levy basically hypothecated back to local government. And I also would like to see the Bravehearts Keep Safe program in every state school in New South Wales.
The Reverend Gordon Moyes represents Family First. You remember that the Reverend Moyes was once a Christian Democrat, but left after falling out with the Reverend Fred Nile.
I always believe in supporting the government that has the mandate in the lower house in general terms. However, if that government is not doing something that I believe is right for the people of New South Wales, I will vote against that. Although we're not a religious party, we're not a Christians-only party, we're a party of people that value the community, but we nevertheless believe that God made this world and we should be good stewards of it.
Robert Brown, MLC, heads the Shooters and Fishers Party ticket.
Obviously, there are things that we want to achieve for our constituents, and the government of the day are the ones who have the purse strings and who have the legislative power to do it. So, yes, the answer is definitely we will be attempting to get the best deal for our people.
What's on your shopping list?
Well, generally speaking, the things that Labor knocked us off on in this last government, I want my amendment bill to the Game and Feral Animal Control Act up to get these volunteer hunters into national parks killing feral animals. We'd like the incoming government, whoever they are, to support a 5-year moratorium on the creation of any new marine parks until they have time to do the science. Alongside that, of course, we'd be pushing the government of the day to put the proper amount of money into the science. We'd like to run some of the issues that were knocked out of the late Honourable Roy Smith's bills to amend some of the more onerous parts of the Firearms Act. We'd put those back on the table and we'd expect support there. And generally speaking, issues where we think the government should be looking at some of the legislation that went through the last government, like the declaration of the River Red Gums down on the Murray River. We think that was an atrocious piece of legislation that just simply put hundreds of families out of work for no real environmental gain.
There are many others standing for the upper house, including the anti-urban consolidation party Save Our State.
We want to ensure that we have open, honest government, that we are planning for the people and sustainable development.
And former independent MP John Hatton.
I can't stand the influence of property developers that poured over $19 million into both sides in the last 10 years, of the liquor and gambling industry that poured in over $7.5 million into both sides, the tobacco industry pouring money into the Liberal Party.
There will be an intense battle for the very last upper house quota.
Your vote is your voice. Be heard.
State Electoral Commission nominations for the upper house close next Thursday. With the political future of New South Wales now in play, all eyes will be on the upper house.